All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us again
Morning.
today.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so today we're gonna have lots of speakers, and we're gonna be talking more about executing our plans. Would that you can spend a lifetime studying, planning for it, but what we need to do is actually to get started. Right? So
That's
today we're
right.
going to do a lot of the hows, how we're going to go about our plans, what steps we need to take, and yes, like Nat said yesterday, you don't have to do what works for another person, do what works for you. So for me, it's more like doing yourself, do you, you know. So yeah, so that's for me, and I'm actually excited because I really want to learn something new. There are a lot of things that you do repeatedly and things you really need to do something differently, and I'm ready to do something differently with today's session.
That's right. And yesterday we looked at the first 5 steps, and this morning we'll be continuing with another 5 steps to make the 10 life compass, goal planning, goal setting steps, and it just promises to be really enlightening and value packed. Just for a quick recap, we had the session. The step one, begin with you. The step two was teaching us to define our life's vision, mission, and core values. The step three was to set smarter goals, write out your strategy, tactics, timing, and process. The step four. And then step five, create and maintain a vision or dream board. Okay. And now we will be continuing with the step six, okay, which is on how to assign and allocate resources. I hope you are excited because I am. I'm ready to take down notes. Like you said, Rose, I'm ready to just apply myself to the learning we're about to receive, and it just promises to be exciting. So I hope you are ready because I am, and the facilitator is ready. So I think we can go ahead right now and make welcome the facilitator for the step six, Dr. Omar Peters. Please, you're welcome to the studio, and the stage is
Okay,
yours.
yes, we have Omar Peters.
While we're waiting for while we're waiting for her, it's important I emphasize that
Okay.
we're set to glean as much value as we can. Okay, she's live here in the studio. Okay,
Okay.
so just be ready with your writing materials and let's get it down.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for
Good
joining us
morning.
today. Thank you for joining us, and I can promise you, you are in for a wonderful time. The last 5 teachings, I would say, from yesterday has really given me a new perspective to what the following year, that's next year, is going to be like. I've learned a lot, and I believe every one of us have learned a lot. Today is
Yeah.
just a continuation of what the foundation that has been built. And everything about a building is based on the foundation. If the foundation is strong, the building will stand. So yesterday's foundation,
Right.
it was a very strong foundation that was built yesterday, and I believe whatever we build on it today is going to stand. So
That's right.
today I will be sharing my screen, if you don't mind. Choose what to share. Okay, entire screen, window, Microsoft Edge. Sorry, I'm just trying to bring up the screen I want to share. Bear with me. Okay. Right, I think I'm having some issues trying to share my screen, but I'm not going to let that take our time. I'll just go ahead with what I have to share. Right. I'm sure we can still follow. Today, I'm just going to be talking about assigning and allocating resources, like it's been introduced. Normally, there's what we call a year in review at my place of work. Where I work, obviously, apart from the businesses I do one or two other regular jobs, I would say. And where I work, I happen to be a manager, and I also have managers above me. So at the end of every year in December, we do what we call the year in review. So we look at what has happened all through the year, what has gone well. So I report to my manager, my subordinates report to me. And when the reports come, we all look at it, we all sit down, round table, and then we talk about, what has gone wrong, what hasn't gone wrong. Most times, there is a form that we have to fill. And in this form, they'll tell you, most companies have this, most organizations have this. There is the KRA, which is the key result areas, or the key performance index. Some people call it KPI. Then there is the gain, then there is the pain, then there is the blame, then there is the aim. It's just a table, a very short table where what have you gained all through the year? When it comes to the gains, we are always happy because that's where we do our humble brag. We tell people what we've done. We are happy to write down, how we've moved the organization forward, what we've done all through the year. In fact, how without our contribution, the company would not be where it is and everything. And then we talk about all the achievements and all the profit the organization has made and everything. Then it takes us to the pain. When we talk about the pain, we talk about the losses in the company, we talk about the difficulties we've experienced in the company, what's gone wrong. Before COVID, we blamed it on different things. But with COVID, I know it's easy to blame everything on COVID. But then there is another section where we talk about the blames. So the blames is what made things go wrong. Why did you have losses? Why did you have difficulties? So that is where we blame different things. We talk about, the management, how the bosses, they should have led us better, the leadership, lack of funding, low skill sets, oh, we've been short-staffed, or the staff, they are poorly trained, or the people you gave to me to work with, they are not well trained, or, they don't have the right skill sets, or we just lack, the right equipment, we don't have the right technology, or simply, we just don't know how to do what you've asked us to do. So we lay blames on these things. And then there's a section where they then ask us, so what are your aims for next year? Your aims for next year should be the steps you intend to take to mitigate against the blames. Okay, you have said your bosses, the management, they haven't done so well. They lack funding, you've lacked funding, the poor skill sets and everything. Now, what are you going to do to make sure that the following year, all these excuses do not come in? So when I looked at this year's performance sheet, I just looked at that column of the blames, and I was able to analyze that the leadership is always to blame when companies fail. Lack of funding, poor skill sets, not enough time, lack of right equipment, lack of knowledge. And when I looked at this and I was given this topic to talk about, I compared it side by side with the LifeCompass resources. And it just tells me that LifeCompass is an organization that is ready to make us run our lives like successful businesses. So over the last teachings, the last 5 teachings, my belief that our lives should be run like a business has been reinforced. If I can sit down at my place of work at the end of every year, because I am accountable to my manager or my subordinates are accountable to me, I have the time to write down what has gone wrong, what has gone right, and what should be done better next year. For a company that doesn't belong to me, I should be able to do the same thing for my own life that belongs to me. And the place we miss it most is where we can do this for our company. We can do this even for the businesses we run, but not for our personal lives. So I looked at the resources: leadership, finances, talent, time, relationship, partnership, technology, and knowledge. These are the LifeCompass resources. And putting them side by side, like I said, there are the things that companies that do not do well blame their failures on. So they'll say it's because, well, the leadership was not good enough, or my finances was not good enough, or, I don't have the right talent, the right skill set around me. So many of these things feature in the excuses people give for failure. And this is also side by side with human beings. When people grow older and they're about to retire, there are people who they've interviewed and they say, oh, what regrets do you have? Oh, you better use your time well. They'll give you advice and tell you, while you're still young, better use your time well. So time there is a resource. Others will tell you, well, I failed in life because, you see, my parents, if only they had this or they had that. So they are blaming the management because their parents at the time they were young was their manager. Now, if you ask someone who probably did not succeed as well as he thought he should have succeeded, all of these blames, you will find them in his excuses or in her excuses. So the same things that make businesses fail, they are the same things that make individuals fail. And it all boils down to not allocating the right resources to the right areas of our lives. So today we are talking about how to mitigate against these blames, how to make sure that all that went wrong last year, all that didn't quite go well this year, will not repeat itself next year. And how can we do this? We can only do this by mitigating against the blames, by assigning and allocating resources appropriately. I want to use that word appropriately because you can assign and allocate resources, but you can do it inappropriately. If it is done inappropriately, it's still not going to work. So we've looked at all the resources, we've looked at time, we've looked at technology, we've looked at all of that. But I'm going to expatiate on just one of them. The time I've got would not allow me to talk about all the 7. The one resource I want to talk about is relationship partnership, otherwise called network. When you hear me say network or relationship or partnership, I'm just using them interchangeably. So your network is your net worth. There's this popular book by Porter Gale, and that's just the caption. Your network is your net worth. That's one of my recommendations for my teaching. It's a book by Porter Gale. So there are 3 greatest assets a man can possess. 3 greatest assets a man can possess. The three greatest assets a man can possess are, number one, people. Number two, more people. And number three, even more people. It's not money. The three, I'll say that again, the three greatest assets a man can possess are people. That's number one. Number two, more people. And number three, even more people. The profit is in the people. The product is about the people. Everything about you is about people. So there is a need for us to rearrange our lives to accommodate people. And that is allocating the right resources, because people, your relationship with people, your network is a resource itself. And having that resource can take you far further than just having time or just having money. And that's why I've chosen this network to talk about it. Now we are talking about network, we're talking about relationship, partnership. Like I said, I'm using it interchangeably. Now, there's the familial network, which is the network of your family members, and there's the non-familial one. I'm just, doing a broad classification. There are other types of network, but there is the one just for your family, your family members, and then there's the non-familial ones. That's just the broad classification we'll be using. But today we are going to be looking more at the non-familial ones. That's your network outside of your family members. So why do we need relationships? Why do we need partnerships? Why do we need network? Why is this so important? Your network can be a source of at least 4 of the resources we have mentioned. Just one can be a source. So that one network, that one relationship, that one partnership can give rise to 4 other resources that we have mentioned. One of them is knowledge. The other one is finance. The other one is it can improve your skill set. The people you hang around with, the relationships you form, your network can improve your skill set, meaning it can improve your talent. So you might even have a talent, but that talent is untamed, it's unrefined. The network you keep is a channel or an avenue that can help you to refine this talent. Also, the network you keep can also save you time. It can save you hours, it can save you days, it can save you years of hard work. Your network can be a shortcut to success. Your network can give your qualifications wings. Have you noticed that probably while you were at the university, there were, some people, there were some people, very, very brilliant and very knowledgeable. They were the ones that did, lecture after lecture. So when the lecturer has finished, they then come and then they teach you again what, you should have known and everything. And then 10 years later, you find out that maybe it's either they are still looking for a job or they found a job, but they are not where you expect them to be. Most times, the people who you see, maybe 10 years later, they are commissioners in their states, they are governors in their states, or they are ministers, or 10 years later, it's as a result of network. As a result of network. So your network can make you to be noticeable, and your network can magnify your little effort. The little thing you do just because of the people you hang around with, that network can magnify your effort. Your network can be the bridge between your now and your desired future. And also, good network, good relationship is worth more than 10 years of effort. And opportunities ride on the wings of relationship. Now, there are basic things I want us to just touch on before I round up. The basics of networking. Number one, I want to be a bit controversial, but please permit me. And the first thing I want to say about networking, partnership, relationship to help you achieve your goal is you must have both good and bad friends. I can explain, but I'll say it again. you must have both good and bad friends. You see, there are times at the end of the year, people are saying, you see on social media, if you see that, you are no longer on my contact, it's because I've deleted you. Others will say I've deleted 500 people from my phone or my contact. Others will say I deleted 200, and because they are not adding value to my life and everything. 3 years ago, you deleted 100. The last year you deleted another 100. This year again, you are going to delete like 500. When you deleted those people, things did not change. It just shows that those people were not your problems. It shows that you have to look at what you bring to the table in networking. Everybody, everybody, good or bad, we all have our positives, we have our negatives. Now, when I say have both good and bad friends, you look at the person you think is bad and think of how you can harness that person's gift to serve your purpose, and how you too can harness your gift to serve his or her purpose. Nobody is completely bad. And I'll give you a short instance of, having good and bad friends. I have this friend, and she's in the network where I live is, a very small village, here in the UK. When we first moved here, there were not many Black people here, so the Black people, we all knew ourselves, we all went to the same church and everything. And if there is this person said, there is always this one friend that is involved. She talks a lot. She's the talkative type. If you tell her anything, she takes it everywhere. So people began to avoid her, but I kept her as a close friend. But the only thing there is, just be careful what you say to her. Just be careful. And she lost a lot of friends, but I remained her friend. And then there was an occasion, I was about to host an occasion. And I was thinking about how to publicize this occasion. How am I going to tell people? I just want people to come and everything. And it just occurred to me, this is my friend. If you tell her anything, she will tell a lot of people. I called her and I said to her, look, you're the only one I'm telling. This is how it's going to be. This is how it's going to be. Really? And straight away, before you knew it, this person was calling me, oh, Oma, you are doing this. You didn't tell me. Oma, you are doing this. Oma, I'll be there. Oh, Oma. Now, at the end of the day, when she came, because she's into catering as well, she was the one that did the catering and everything. What have I done? I have used that bad quality, turned it into a good one, but at the same time, she has benefited because she was the one that did the catering for the occasion, and from there, she got more contracts. The relationship has been mutually benefiting. So, what am I saying? Have both good and bad friends. Don't network or form relationships for what only you can gain. Network for what you can give. And what you need will definitely come to you automatically. As I round up, I'll always say, do a self-SWOT analysis. Obviously, we know the SWOT analysis, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, your threats. Do a self-SWOT analysis to ensure that you also are the right person for others to network with. Because that's what we miss oftentimes. We look at it, oh, well, this person is the problem. I am never the problem. But before the year commences, I would like us in our retreats to sit back and think, in what areas, what strengths do I have, but what weaknesses are there as well? What opportunities exist, and what are the threats, to my forming original, valuable network, with people this year? So basically, that's it about networking. There's a lot more to talk about, but my time is up, and I'm not going to take any more of our time. We are going to, round up here. And if at the end of this, you have any questions for me, I'm happy to take them. But I hope you benefited from the last 20 minutes talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Wow. Thank you. I mean, you really threw some serious value there,
Thank
and
you.
that controversial point about having good and bad friends. At first I was like, hey, what are you saying? but but I mean, it is what it is, and it makes a lot of wisdom. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Dr. Peters.
Thank
Yes.
you. Thank
People,
you.
people, people, you know.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Yeah, I'm just reading
Thank
up.
you.
Some people are sharing their comments. Yeah, feel free to share your comments, and let others know what is going on here. You can share the links so that your friends and family members can also jump in and be a part of the great, great value being shared here. You said some wonderful things. You said your network can magnify your effort. That's so true. There are people who are struggling with things that they ought not struggle with because they are just around the wrong set of persons. But with the right access, I mean, you do something and it is put out there among the right people who can amplify what you're doing, and before you know it, you're getting recognition. People are everything. Everything. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Peters.
you.
This is so
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank
All
you.
right. So we'll take questions at the end of these sessions. So please do well to start putting your questions together. Okay, so that we just treat all the questions together in one session at the end. Okay. So we will take the next facilitator right now. Okay, like I said, please put together your questions and we'll come back. We'll be glad to treat those questions later before we round off today's session. Wow, this is starting up on a very, very, very hot and valuable note. Okay, our next facilitator is ready, and we will be bringing him up in just a moment. So he'll be taking us on step 7, and it's about finding an accountability partner. This is very key. It is so, so key. And to do justice to this topic is not other but our coach Israel Aye. Okay, and let me just say a little bit about him before handing him over the stage. He is an energy lawyer, a legal services entrepreneur, a development enthusiast, and a serial entrepreneur. Okay, and he's just going to do justice to the subject of getting an accountability partner. Rose, you want to say something before he comes in?
Well, that's fine. I actually wanted to say one or two things about what Oma said. I like the fact that she talks about the scorecard. So scorecards are not just for organizations, really. They're actually, good for you personally, for your personal development. And
That's
then
right.
it's really interesting to actually emphasize that. You need people, you need more people, you need even more people, and that is really, really very true.
Thank you so much for that, Rose. Okay, so we move to the step 7. I hope I hope it's not just my network. Is our facilitator ready? Okay, I'll get the signal when he's in the room.
Uh,
Okay,
but
it's buffering.
I don't know
I think
Oh,
he's
he's in
here.
now. Okay.
if
Oh, wow.
I'm live. Hmm.
Yes,
Looks like
you are.
an admin. Okay. Right. Good morning, everybody. Just testing for sound. Can you hear me clear?
Yeah,
Unfortunately,
it's
we are
breaking a
not able
bit. Maybe it could be better.
to shoot the. I'm sorry, you said?
It's
Is it
breaking,
better?
kind of. Yes, it should be better now.
Yes. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the best I can. I was trying to join from my laptop, but it requires me to download Chrome. I've been struggling to download Chrome since I didn't realize it was an issue.
Oh.
You know, but I hope we can make do with this one.
Okay.
Is it better?
Yes, it's flowing.
Okay. And actually did send across just the slide pack I was hoping to talk.
To share.
I don't know if anyone is in a. I'll just as already. All right. So I'll proceed as advised. I mean, I'll proceed. Right. Okay. So once again, good morning. Thank you very much to the LifeCompass crew for having me. Thank you very much for putting this together. You know, like I say to people all around, that this country presents an enormous opportunity to do good and hopefully to make a profit in the process. You know, the way I like to put it is that there's a there's $1 trillion opportunity to do good. You know, and for those who probably have a calling towards entrepreneurship, or perhaps to try their hands on business or some form of entrepreneurial endeavor, that's probably your motivation right there. And this is one of them. You know, that as it is generally said that people perish for lack of vision or for lack of knowledge. You know, and so equipping folks with the right amount of wisdom in order to be able to do life is, you know, is a high calling in my view, and I'm really very glad to be a part of what is going on here. Just a few opening thoughts I could share with us would be one, that success is not accidental, you know, and that is something that it represents for us almost a culture shock, you know, when we think that, oh, you know, there's what I call the hammer mentality, and then we have all kinds of names for it these days, and I don't want to go into certain dimensions, you know, so as not to offend anybody. But the important thing is that preparation is what meets opportunity, and that's how success is created. Now, the divine element is opportunity. The human is preparation, and it's important to note that fact. And it isn't as if we become arrogant as to allocate to ourselves the power to create wealth. No, that still comes from a force that is outside of us. But that force, as benevolent as it is, also is not arbitrary, as it were. You know, it's neither arbitrary nor indeed irresponsible. It is likely going to flow towards those who are prepared. That's really one of the things that is great about this program. I just listened to the presentation on networking. It was an amazing presentation. I'm glad I was part of it, and then I was part of it. I probably picked up snippets via broadcast. You know, some of the things that went on yesterday, and you know, essentially, if you were to break down the yesterday and today into simple thoughts, it is inspiration and action. You know, so if you're inspired and you don't know how to carry out action, then you're going to be very frustrated. Or if you're just the type who is prone to act without inspiration, then you're going to encounter another kind of frustration. But what I really want is to be able to take inspired action, because manifestation is always at the end of doing. And you know, the selection of the things we're looking at today has to do with that. So the first thing we're looking at this morning, the first thing I'm doing, because I'm talking to two things, will be what I term here or refer to as leveraging elevators, essentially. And we talk about mentors, coaches, and accountability partners. Okay. So some opening thoughts for us to just consider. Are you a lone wolf? or a team player. And the important, and the interesting thing around there is, how you really look at yourself. Because there are many of us who have not realized that you yourself are a corporation, okay? And you are a business center, if you will, a profit center, a cost center as well. And together you are a business, and how do you treat you? Essentially, are you going through life? Are you doing life alone? Are you going through life alone? Or some, and there are many people who think that, well, look, let me hide, and hit it big, and then show up and surprise people. And it is a form of arrogance. It's a form of arrogance. We understand that in the multitude of counsel, there is safety. Okay? And perhaps you would say, well, safety is not my goal, but counsel can help us to see the things that we are otherwise unable to see for ourselves or by ourselves. Okay? So, thank you very much for putting that up. So you can just move it along to some opening thoughts. That, I think, is the third slide, which is where I am. So we say teamwork makes the dream work. And again, forgive me. Let me apologize in advance that some of the analogy I'm going to be using here are related to or related to what do you call it now? To sports. Okay, some of the analogy I'm going to be using here is related to sports. But sports teach us a very vital lesson on the subject we're considering this morning. And I ask the question, do you have a bench? In other words, do you have a technical side? I mean, it's becoming apparent. I like to think of myself as something of a lover of soccer or football, depending on what part of the world you're from, but generally I look at sports really as a business person, as an entrepreneur, as a business person, and I try to draw lessons from it. And it's become very clear to everyone that the odds of winning are greatly increased by the quality of the bench, especially the technical crew of the bench that you have. And so I asked the question earlier, are you a lone wolf or are you a team player? Remember that teamwork makes the dream work. And there are a couple of examples like that, and we'll probably be jumping into some a bit more much later. But I mean, and I remember the first British gentleman to win the Wimbledon, and I'm trying to remember his name now. And he was an almost star. He got to several semis and finals, but he just seemed far away from it. But he got a particular coach, and that helped to tip him over. And I could relate to the concept of a coach in team sports, because I am thinking, well, you need something like a conductor of an orchestra. However, the concept of a coach in individual sports was something that really befuddled me, and I thought to myself, look, once you've learned the sport and you play and you do your drills and you practice, what do you need a coach for? But a coach is somebody who has that sort of bird's eye view, and I don't mind the fact that I'm just talking about the coach. I'm just using that as a point of contact to what I'm talking about, because it has a bird's eye view or something of that nature. It could just tell you perhaps the way you're holding the racket, perhaps your swings, your backstrokes. Let's walk around this, and who can capture the data, who is dispassionate, who is committed to your outcomes, but dispassionate about where you are and can make very objective decisions. That is not dissimilar to what you might have with potentially a mentor. And so we say mentor helps you to see further than you can. Okay, and you see that in section 7 of the workbook. I'd like to recommend that we go to the workbook. The details of how to arrive at these outcomes are there. And the coach helps you to perform better than you thought you're capable of. An accountability partner is somebody whom you have given permission to hold your feet to the fire. So I like to start with those three. And the point of reflection there, like I said, is only the wise can be advised. Now, no matter how good your coach is, no matter how good your mentor is, no matter how good your accountability partner is, if you yourself do not have the disposition, if you're argumentative, if you're arrogant, if you're proud, if you're not open to suggestions, if you're not open to counsel, then the best coach, the best mentor, the best accountability partner will be wasted on you. And that's an important point to make. So I would like to advocate, maybe as a first point to note here, a humble disposition, And as somebody said that the mind and the parachute work in exactly the same way. They each have to be open in order to work. Or the mind and the parachute are the same. They need to be open in order to work. If you're closed-minded, then you probably shouldn't be listening to this. If you think that the wisdom of all the world emanates from your head, you're the one who thought about the business, you are the visionaire, you are the whatever it is, then you are not a candidate for acceleration in the way I understand it, and I may be wrong. But let's go to the next slide and look at some things very quickly. And I'll try and rush through this so that and so what I've done with this particular slide to get us into it is to compare, coaching versus mentoring. Now, the question is, you're talking about coaching, mentoring, and accountability partners. Why are you comparing coaching and mentoring? Accountability partners is a bit simple. Accountability partners, like I said, is somebody, and that could be, in many cases, in very structured situations, that could be a board. It could be a board of directors. It could be a board of advisors. Those are potentially accountability partners. Now, those ones are selected not for their detachment, emotional detachment from your journey, in order for them to be able to be objective and a commitment to your success. Okay? There's no point going to get somebody who is extremely critical to advise you. You have to have another level of maturity to be able to use that kind of counsel. Something about accountability partners. Now, let me say something else, even around the area of the disposition of the counselee, of the coachee or the mentee. It is just the ability to have to use what we call advocacy and inquiry. To clarify thinking using questioning rather than defending. If you're a very defensive person, if you feel like you need to defend a position, then you're probably not going to be able to have very good relationships in this space. You should, even if your coach, mentor, or accountability partner is obviously wrong, you should have the capacity to listen, defer judgment, use what I call advocacy, inquiry and advocacy, or advocacy and inquiry. More like inquiry more than advocacy, to be honest. To clarify the issues, thank them for their input, and you take whatever input, reflect over it, and take action based on what works ultimately for you. But you have to keep an open mind. You have to be able to defer judgment in order to move forward. But the two roles that are very easily confused many times will be coach and mentor. So we say, and here are a few issues to try and differentiate them. But if I was to just make a broad brush statement, it is that a mentor, is, quite frankly, the thing about mentoring in its most advanced stage is really somebody you admire, whose results you love and want to emulate, granting you access to them. So that in a good mentoring relationship, actually, more is learned than is taught. But it takes a whole, and again, a lot of people destroy this because your mentor is not your financier. Your mentor is not your funder. Sometimes your mentor is not even your supporter. You can enter into a mentoring relationship with somebody who is not necessarily committed to providing you, or to be a cheerleader for you. But it is somebody whose result, like I said, you love, and whom you want to emulate, and you want to gain some insight into how they have achieved those results. They are not your destiny helpers in that sense that Nigerians understand destiny helpers. And forgive me if I'm taking a flack at my people, but they are just really your motivators, and of course, they, like we say, can help to steer you, to navigate you in the direction you're going, and they will save you time. They can help you to achieve in a year what would otherwise have taken 10 years. They help you to avoid the mistakes they may have made or observed other people making. and be able to provide you the same bit of a compass, you know, and it's rather fitting that we're talking about life compass. So in terms of time frame, coaching relationship potentially can be shorter. Coaching, on the other hand, is a more structured. Quite frankly, in many cases, you actually hire a coach. So, and you hardly ever hire a mentor. But sometimes you hire a coach, you pay for their services because, like I said, they're very emotionally detached. They're not necessarily people whose results you get, but what it is that they have good questioning skills. They ask thought-provoking questions that helps to clarify your thinking on a particular issue, and then help you arrive at the right sort of decisions. With respect to coaching, to mentoring, you are probably going to be the one asking questions. How did you, when you were confronted with this situation, how did it happen? You know, so this sort of formal thing, I imagine that this will be shared at some point and people can go through it so that we can get to a couple more other things before my time runs out. But those are two different situations. Now, my general sort of thinking is that if you're in employment, maybe you can use both. And by the way, they're not mutually exclusive. It doesn't mean that if you have a coach, then you can't have a mentor. If you have a mentor, you can't have a coach, or you can't have an accountability partner. As a matter of fact, you can have all three, and which is the question I asked earlier on. Who is the team you? You know, perhaps one of the things you're going to determine to do in the coming year, in 2022, is to create Team Me. You know, put your name in there. Say Team Israel, my bench. You know, who is my Guardiola? Who is my Coach Jackson? Who is my, Tuchel? I'm a Chelsea fan. You know, and but the coach is the one we see, but there's the technical crew. So who is that Team You? You know, your accountability partner, your coach, your mentor. You can carefully choose those. Those can save you years of hard toil and needless mistakes. Just going on to the, so I just want to share a few examples with us. So you'd see that, some of the people we know that have how do you call it now? That have achieved tremendous, spectacular results, have leveraged this resources that we're talking about. And so I want to share with us some famous examples of mentorship. And I have just down here about 15 of those. Next slide, please. And so the first one is, so if anybody here, we've heard about Mark Zuckerberg, Now, at his death, Mark did let out that, he enjoyed mentorship and friendship from Steve Jobs. So are we surprised? Okay, from Steve Jobs. Okay, Oprah Winfrey from Maya Angelou. Mother Teresa from Father Michael Van de Pitt. Yves Saint Laurent from Christian Dior. Can you see those trajectory? Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, that's an open romance. Everybody knows about it. Those, even though separated by a few years, a great relationship there. It takes humility and focus to be able to create those kinds of relationships. And if you're looking at people for the short-term benefit, what you can gain out of them, then you're making a mistake. And particularly for mentor, quite frankly, in each of these cases, you should be prepared to not only invest time, but sometimes even invest honor. Take something of value and say, look, I honor your time, for the investment you're making in my life. Take. But many of us, when we're looking to extract, and that's sometimes is a hindrance. And on, and Aristotle, Plato, and these are really very famous names. Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi himself, Krishna, whoever that is. Barack Obama, Michelle Robinson. Nobody ever heard of it, but we all have heard about Barack Obama. Okay? And for Harry Potter aficionados, Professor Dumbledore, Harry Potter. Okay? But this is just to give us a spectrum of what we're talking about. And So just look at a few. So that's in the coaching spectrum. Let's look at. I'm sorry, that was in the mentoring edition. The next slide are some famous examples of coaching. Okay, now, of course, some famous examples of coaching include Steve Jobs, co-founder and CEO, coach John Mitton. Mark Benioff, founder, chairman, CEO of Salesforce, Tony Robbins. John Mitton also coached Roger Enrico, CEO of Pepsi. Goldman Sachs embeds coaching within its leadership framework. For its very senior leaders, it ensures that they get a performance coach. Surprisingly, Lagos State government has done the same thing. Every commissioner in Lagos State has a coach. I was quite surprised when I found out. And LifeCompass is a coaching platform, and the principle of LifeCompass, I can put out my dollar on that and say potentially one of the best coaches that but these resources are available to us, but many times we don't even know that people use them. So we think about coaches, we say coach, and for those of us who love sports, we can criticize this coach and that coach and whatever else. But when did you realize that you yourself might need a coach? And this is even more, particularly more for, if you call it business people, because sometimes, in my experience, it's been a bit challenging to find a mentor or to find mentors in the business space. For those of you who are evangelicals or Pentecostals, you see the impact and the value of mentorship, in producing generations of, next sort of ministry leaders. Okay, but sometimes when you look to those spaces for cross mentorship, there's a bit of a challenge, because again, they produce after their own kind. So if you're a business person, you may be looking for a mentor along the lines of somebody who understands, existing in the marketplace and how to play and fight in the marketplace. So those are very potentially deep things that I've said. Those who know will know, and those who want to know more can ask our principal, Mr. Ogala, and if he's minded to, we can set up a small call to even dig deep and drill this a bit more. But if you are still trying to settle the issue of mentorship, how about coaching? Now, I've just given you implicitly a referral right there that you can begin with the likes of Mr. Ogala. I understand that Mark Abrahams is on set, and those are some of the ones I know personally. And I believe that everyone who has spoken here has been selected because of that unique ability to be able to offer particularly coaching services. And so I'd say, both on this platform and outside of it, consider, finding a coach, particularly if you're a business, find an executive coach, find a performance coach, and enter into that relationship based on the sort of framework I shared earlier. And there's a lot more available out there that you can see. The purpose of this is to just, it's a consciousness class. It's to just bring this into our consciousness. The rest of the learning, I believe, we can make on our own. All right, so thank you very much. I think my 20 minutes are up. Like I said, this was meant to only stir us up. If we go to the section 7, it provides to us more details on how we can go about resourcing coaches, mentors, and accountability partners, and that way you can constitute Team U. Don't do 2022 without sourcing your own team. If you're going to win the Premiership, if you're going to win the league, then it has a lot to do with the quality of your bench. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Thank you very, very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. I have so many questions on my mind, but I think I'll have to wait until the end of the session to ask those questions too.
I like the way he differentiated between the coaches and the mentors.
Yeah.
No problem.
That was, yeah. Okay, so the great thing that all of you who are watching need to know is that here at the Life Compass we have a rich team of coaches and mentors. Okay, and at really good fees. All right, so it's something you should want to take advantage of. It's a loaded network, and you want to just be a part of this community. Thank you so much, sir. I mean, you said something that is only the wise that can make use of advice.
True.
I took note of that.
Yeah, I did too. I did too.
Wow, wow. Only the wise can be advised.
Yeah.
Chai, that's so true.
It's deep. Very deep.
That's so true.
Yeah.
Okay, so participants, please show some love, share some feedback. Tell us what you learned from this session. You can just put it there in the comment section. Let's know what you gleaned from this. Good thing that he will be back, for another session after the next. Okay,
Yeah.
so we still have some things to enjoy from him one more time. Okay, so please let's hear what you picked from the session. Let's know what jumped out at you. And this is just a beautiful one. All right. I think we can take a commercial break.
Break, okay.
Yeah, just before we bring in the next speaker. Okay, welcome back.
Welcome back, people.
Yeah.
I like what Oma puts. Your mentor is not your destiny helper. I like that.
In fact,
oh wow.
and I always tell people who are looking for destiny helpers, I tell them, how about planning to be someone's helper?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not a bad idea.
Mm-hmm.
You can start from where you are, actually. You ask me. You can start from where you are. Yes.
This was just a beautiful session. Lest I forget, I want to let us know also that we have the year planner. Okay, it's been heavily discounted. Okay, heavily discounted. It's available, so we encourage you to get it, because tomorrow morning we're going to have a practical session. We're going to be filling it in. And the truth is, the essence of these trainings are not just to make you feel good. It's supposed to reflect in your decisions. Next year gives you an opportunity, a plain sheet. You can start painting afresh. Okay, so it's very important you participate in the practical session tomorrow, and you need that year planner to make it effective. Okay, so please do well to grab your soft copies. Okay, so that makes it even more flexible. Just download, and then you'll be able to fill in as we go ahead. Okay. Are we ready for the next session?
Yes, we are.
Okay. He was with us yesterday. He taught us about vision. about values, about defining your life vision, mission, and core values, and he shared an example of his personal vision, and that inspired me. Sometimes you think this thing has to be a very complicated um, narrative, but he said he just wants to be the best he can be and use it to serve his world, and that was deep for me. If you were at the session yesterday, you know who I'm talking about, and his name is Mr. Nath McAbraham Inajo. Okay, I would quickly run through his profile again for the benefit of those of us who were not here yesterday. I'll just run through his profile, and after that, he will take this stage. Okay, he is an accredited international airport professional, and he was a principal partner of McAbrahams Limited, which is a CMD certified management training institution. Okay, he's a chartered management consultant. He's a member Nigerian Institute of Management, and he served on the Human Resource Committee of the Airports Council International Africa, and is currently on the Council's Safety Committee. He is a much sought after expert in soft skills, and he has special interest in strategic, organizational, and personal communications. And his clientele cut across banking, oil and gas, telecom, public service. Okay. In addition to being a first-class CMD certified management trainer, he's also an author and conference speaker. And his professional experience gathered within and outside Nigeria span across journalism, marketing research, university lecturing, and management training. Okay, he's been on the faculties of several, and I mean several, training institutes in Nigeria. He has trained over 250,000 professionals over the last 25 years. I mean, this is somebody you want to listen to, and you want to get out your writing materials and just grab as much as you can. Okay.
Be a sponge.
Rosemary, would you help us bring him in?
All right, please help me welcome Nath McAbraham Inajo. I like calling him Uncle Nat, so you guys please don't, you will not understand. Uncle Nat, it's your time.
Good morning to you again. Good morning, Rosemary.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
to see you guys again, and good morning to all our participants who are logged in. I'd like to begin by commending our participants for the time they are investing in this activity. I'd like to assure you that it's going to yield positive dividends. It's an activity I have personally engaged in the past, over the past 30 years. Inevitably take out time, even if it's just a day, to reflect on my life, my activities, and then strategize for the next 12 months and all that. And it's been extremely useful for me, and I believe it will be for you. I also like to appreciate the organizers, LifeCompass, for putting this together. Thank you, Dr. Omar Peters, and Israel I for your sessions. I followed and I took some notes. I once attended a training session, and that was at Lagos Business School. I was a participant, I wasn't facilitating. And the lady who was taking the session said something profound. She said this to us in that class about 20 years ago, thereabouts. I still haven't forgotten what she said. She said, all you know is all you have learned. And all you have learned is not all there is to know. So which means no matter how much you think you have acquired in terms of knowledge, there's somebody who knows just a little bit more. And it takes humility for you to sit to get that from that person. So I appreciate the humility all of you have shown to be on this platform. I'm going to go straight into the subject matter for today's interaction, which is managing your internal systems. Managing your internal systems. Well, internal systems refer to, I could add another word, your internal operating system. For most of us who use computer devices, Android devices and all that, they all have an internal operating system. And it is this internal operating system that determines the output. In the same way, your internal operating system determines your output in the real world, in life. And just like it's not visible on your devices, your internal operating system is not visible to the people around you, but they only see the results and the output from the things you do, the things you say, and the way you comport yourself. So we're going to spend some time to look at this, albeit briefly, so that at least I can get you thinking in this direction, and then you can do some work to ensure that you have your internal operating system ready to drive the outputs you're looking out for in the coming year. Now, while I refer to this from a technical perspective, internal operating system, the world of ICT and all that, I want you to know that we're simply talking about emotions. Your internal operating system actually refers to your emotional state, your internal emotional state. And strange as it may sound to some people, the human being is an emotional being. The most important decisions we make in life are actually driven by emotions, not logic, as some people might think. I give a very simple example I give in some of my training sessions. You have this beautiful, intelligent niece or somebody, cousin, and she comes to you and says, "Oh, uncle, there's this guy I've fallen in love with. He's such a wonderful guy." And she keeps eulogizing him, extolling his virtues. And your niece is truly, truly a beautiful girl, front cover material, magazine material. And then finally, you get to meet this guy she is gushing about. And so, come and meet Tony. And Tony steps in the door, and you gasp because you're beginning to wonder if a gorilla has escaped from Ibadan Zoo. That is Tony. Your cousin is crazy about Tony. And you're wondering, what did she see in him? I'm sure you've had that experience where you've seen very handsome men and you see their wives and you're like, excuse me, like we say in this part of the world, did she put a leaf in her mouth, or did she put a leaf in his mouth when he spoke to this person? Why do you have such a reaction? It is not logical. You expect that good-looking people will go for equally good-looking people, but that is not so. That is simply because the decision about who to marry is oftentimes not logical. People will not understand what you saw in that person or what that person saw in you. But it is one of the most important decisions you would ever make in your life, regardless of your culture, regardless of your religion. The decision about who to spend the rest of your life with is one of the most important decisions you will make. But it's not logical. It's absolutely emotional. I know there are those who have very, very business like mindsets when it comes to these things, but they're actually in the minority. So you're an emotional being. Your emotions determine your actions and they determine your outcome. And if you're able to take care of your emotions, you're likely going to be in charge of the outcomes that you will get in life. Now, I want to say that there are emotional states that initiate wealth creation, that initiate success. There are emotional states that help you sustain the success you have initiated. And there are emotional states that help you to transfer the wealth or the success you have achieved in your lifetime. And they are very different sets of emotional states and competencies that you need to have. I'm sure you also know of people who were able to initiate successful enterprises or ideas and all that, but they could not sustain them. What happened? The skill set that they had that was necessary to initiate was different from the one they needed to sustain. And because they didn't realize they needed to expand their skill sets and be able to sustain the success they had initiated, they lost momentum. They fizzled out. And some are able to sustain, but they don't transfer. And when Israel was talking about mentorship and all that, we're talking about the transfer of success, skills and competencies and attitudes, okay, from somebody who's been through a particular route and has learned some things along the way to people who are just starting out in life. So, but it's not everybody who has that disposition to raise successors. It's not everybody who is successful who can mentor others. And so you also need to have the right internal operating system to be able to transfer your success. Some cannot even transfer it to their children. These are people who live with them. These are people they raised. And so you find a very successful father, and the children who come after, you're wondering what happened. Okay, that's because there was that disconnect. So it's important to understand that you can get into the right emotional states to achieve success. Tony Robbins told a story once in one of his books. He is often engaged by the United States government to work with world-class athletes representing the United States. And he said something in that book. He said that when he got assigned some athletes to work with, he was going to ask them, oh, what did you achieve during the last time you engaged in this particular sporting event? Maybe this person won gold. And he would ask the person just before the event, 30 minutes, 1 hour before the event, what were you thinking about? Who were you thinking about? And oh, I was thinking about my mom. I was thinking about how proud she would be of me if I came tops in this. And it's okay. Do you want to think about your mother now? And what he would do is to bring you back to that emotional state you were in just before that gun went off and you hit the track. If he succeeded in bringing you back to that emotional state, you inevitably produced another gold medal. So I'm telling you this to validate the point I made earlier, that there are emotional states that help you succeed. And if you can always get yourself back to that emotional state, and of course, this is all about introspection and retrospection, trying to go over your life and see what was I thinking of, what was my mood when I achieved X, Y, Z, and recollecting, and then trying to put yourself in that state of mind again, you know. So you would always produce the kind of results, and this is within your ability to manage. So some persons are good at initiating. Now I'm going to concentrate on the self-management skills under the emotional intelligence hierarchy. You have self-awareness, self-management, social management, and then relationship management. The whole internal operating system I'm talking about will be found under that second level, which is self-management, your ability to take charge of your emotional state to produce optimum results. A lot of people find it difficult to initiate anything. They have all these beautiful thoughts in their heads. I want to do this, I want to do that. When you listen to them, they can give you a very beautiful presentation of the things they are going to do or they want to do, but they never get to do them because they do not initiate. Okay, you need to be a starter, and you need to learn to get into that mindset or that state of mind that will facilitate your ability to start things. It's not enough to start. You also need to be able to finish. Well, for those who don't start quite often, you have procrastination as a problem, and they can give all kinds of excuses. But there's something a gentleman called Steve Brown said. He said there are essentially two actions in life: performance and excuses. You need to decide which one you would want to accept for yourself. So there would always be a reason not to perform, okay? But there are also reasons to overcome those objections your mind has put up. So you don't only need to have initiative, you need to have finitiative. Now, don't bother looking for that word in the English dictionary. You're not going to find it, but it's logical, isn't it? When you have initiative, you should have finitiative. A lot of people have broken and abandoned projects in their lives. They picked up forms to go for postgraduate studies. They never submitted the forms. Some actually paid the school fees and they never resumed for one day and all that. Some bought plots of land, never built on them. And I'm sure I'm addressing some of your personal issues. Some even started relationships. You took the girl out for dinner and that was it. You liked her, but you couldn't sustain it. So you don't need finitiative alone, you need to have finitiative. And you cannot have that when you don't have a strong achievement drive, which is one of the components of self-management. Strong achievement drive. That thing in you that keeps you going, and you want to beat your chest, and you know you're like King Kong. On top of that big building and beating his chest and letting out a roar. I've done it. I made it. Here I am. Okay. Of course, there is no worthwhile endeavor that will not throw up some challenges. It's inevitable. That brings me into another internal state you need to be in. That is the state of resilience. Resilience is the capacity to bounce back from adversity. It is the capacity to go back to an original state after certain forces have acted upon you. I have in my hand an elastic, rubber band. I just saw it on my dressing table. I'm like, oh, this is fantastic. I'm just going to use it to illustrate. Okay, you need to be elastic in life, in your responses. There are people who encounter certain challenges, and that is it. They never attempt that activity again. They lack resilience. The customer said no to your first proposal, end of story. Okay, the boss turned down that presentation, and you think that is the end of the world. But resilience means you're able to go back, take a look at that material, tinker with it again, and go knock on that door again. Okay, and keep at it until you get the result you're looking out for. And of course, you cannot be resilient if you don't have strong achievement drive. So you need to have a very strong achievement drive. There are so many things we could talk about under managing your internal states, but I want to spend some time on managing your stress levels, because that is so important. Managing your stress levels. Ordinarily, stress is a good thing. You need some level of stress in order to be able to achieve some results in life. When you're too comfortable, you actually don't achieve much in life. And that's why coaches and other people would always challenge you to get out of your comfort zone, move out of that zone where there's no stress, and expose yourself to some stress, no matter how minimal it will propel you to do certain things. So, however, of course, there are two types of stress: the eustress and the distress. We're not concerned about the eustress. That's the good stress. It's the distress that's the problem. Now, when you are in a state of distress for any length of time, the hormone cortisol builds up in your system, and it begins to have a negative impact on you. One of the ways it affects you is it affects your circadian rhythm, which is your body's natural way of responding to night-day sequence. Your body produces melatonin at certain times of the day, which begins to tell you that it's time to wind down and go to sleep. And the whole idea of sleep is so that you can be rejuvenated, you can be rested, and you are energized to pursue your dreams. But quite often, I'm a bit impressed by people who tell me all I need is 4 hours of sleep. I really applaud you. I celebrate you. I do a minimum of 6 hours, and on a good day, I do 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I'm talking about constantly, okay, because my body needs it. But a lot of supermen and superwomen out there, they actually brag about it, that, oh, I just do 4 hours of sleep and I'm fine. That's going to be in the short term, really, because after a while, you're going to burn out. And you're going to burn out very badly. So when your circadian rhythm is distorted, that means your body is now fighting certain external stimuli because they have tampered with its understanding of your own, because our circadian rhythms are personal. Okay, they're customized, they're personal to us. So you find that some people are night owls, other people are early birds. And I've always seen this challenge when you are an early bird, but your boss is a night owl. So when you're getting ready to close at about 3 or 4, that's when this boss begins to bring files out and says, oh, I want that report. And they can be that way till 10 p.m. or so. They're totally energized at certain times, but you are already winding down. So when your circadian rhythm is distorted, there's a buildup of cortisol. One way it affects you is it takes away your sleep. You begin to suffer from insomnia. When you don't sleep properly, you become irritable. And when you become irritable, you're going to strain the relationships around you. You're going to snap at people. You're going to get into temper tantrums and all that. You're going to be on edge. When you don't sleep properly, you're going to have eating disorders. So because you're awake at 3 a.m., you walk to the refrigerator and pick up something to eat. And because you're burning little energy, chances are you might begin to put on weight and become obese. So you're a candidate for high blood pressure and diabetes, and then you're going to die. You're going to die. We're going to celebrate your funeral with a party. We'll wear ashwabi, talking to people who understand the Nigerian plan for that stuff. And that's the end of you. It all began by your inability to manage your internal system. So there are also happy hormones that help you to achieve better results. Oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins, and all that. They help you to achieve positive results. And there are things you can do in order to get into that frame of mind. Personally, every device around me has a lot of music, especially jazz music inside of it. Sincerely, those who are very close to me know this. No matter what has happened in the world, the moment I begin to listen to my selection of jazz music, everything is fine with the world. That is how I manage my stress. You must find out what works for you. Okay. Of course, don't adopt vices. Okay, you might want to say, well, when I smoke 6 sticks of cigarette, that's how I manage my stress. You're going to destroy your lungs and your respiratory organs, or I want to down a bottle of vodka and all that. Though you're beginning to border on substance abuse, which is not recommended, but there are healthy ways you can get yourself into a positive emotional state so that you can have positive outcomes. And I'm going to end on this note. Emotions are contagious. When you are engulfed in positive emotions, it flows to others. Other people tap into it. In the same way, negative emotions are also contagious. Put one fearful person in a team, the fear will spread. And that's why I like this statement by Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon said, I would rather have an army of rabbits led by a lion than an army of lions by a rabbit. The point here is, if an army of rabbits is being led by a lion, the courage of the lion will affect the rabbits and they will fight like lions. But if you also have a rabbit leading an army of lions, the fear, the palpable fear in the rabbit will spread and the lions will behave like rabbits. So I'm going to end by asking you this question. Are you a rabbit or a lion? You are absolutely in control of your emotional states. You can do things to, in fact, there are foods that actually help put you in certain emotional states. I gave a talk in Warri about 2 weeks ago, and I talked a little bit about that. There are things you eat, chocolates and all that, and then there are natural foods that are high in certain vitamins and all that help you to build the necessary hormones that will give you that predominantly positive outlook on issues in life. So I'll draw the curtains on the interaction at this point, and if there are questions, I'll be available to take them much later. Thank you very much.
So much. Thank you, Mr. Nat. This is power packed and value packed. I'm looking at my notes here. I was I was typing as fast as I could. So much to say. Let me just mention one or two things that jumped out at me. One of the last things I picked was that you are in control of your emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
I think that point should be emphasized again and again, because people think that they absolutely have no control. Things just happen at them, to them. They can't do anything about it, but you are in control of your emotional state. That was so deep. That was that point I wanted to read. It just jumped out of the comment. This was so, yes, systems and processes will always surpass motivation.
Right.
So
Very
true.
true.
Thank you, Rotimi, for that.
Very,
That is
very
so
true.
true. Systems and processes will always surpass motivation. And that is why it's important to set processes, systems, because let me not start my own session. Please, Rosemary.
I feel you, because I'm so much of a person. I like knowing what to do at what point and everything, When these things are actually in place, you are able to, find your bearing. When you don't have systems and you don't have processes, let's not start a session. For me, I think I like the emotions are contagious. They are
Yeah.
actually contagious, just like a smile, right? You smile at people, and then they smile back at you, and I like Uncle Dad has a way to illustrate things that are personal, and then it comes with a story, and it cuts deep to you. Why? Because he uses his experiences to explain a lot of things to you for better understanding. So for me, using the internal system and calling it my emotions as a human being is actually deep, because if you're not in the right frame of mind, you really can't really do a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So if you have your internal systems checked, as far as I'm concerned, what comes out, what exudes out of you would actually affect your environment and the people around you.
So true.
Chimeze, are you a lion or are you a rabbit?
Hey, lion, 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 lion,
Lion.
lion, lion.
I like that. I love that. Nobody wants to be a
Hey,
rabbit, actually. Nobody
at
wants
all.
to be a rabbit.
We just want to eat
Nobody
rabbits.
wants, no, exactly, wants to eat rabbit. And interestingly, being a lion it's easy and it's also not easy. If you have that confidence and you know what you're doing, then yes, you can lead rabbits to behave like you.
That's right. Let me just drop something before we bring in the next speaker for step 9. You know that point
Okay.
he made about initiative and finitiative?
Oh yes, oh yes, yes, yeah, oh yes, yes. I was laughing when he said initiative. He said he doesn't really care whether it's in the dictionary, but hello, if you're able to start, please
Man,
do finish it.
man, that's just so
That's
deep.
deep. Yeah, very, very,
I
very,
saw my
very,
name. I saw
very.
my name somewhere around there. If I heard my name.
Yeah. Sometimes we find ourselves in such situations, and this is a reminder to say that look,
Yeah.
whatever you're doing, please try and make sure you finish it. And that's the reason why we need mentors and coaches around us. They help us put us back in track. Looking back at the drawing board to see where you have, you're derailed from your track, putting you back on
Yeah.
track to be sure that yes, you must finish what you have actually started. We are human beings. We just come up with a lot of ideas. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then the next
Right.
thing, you've not even started the first one, another one is coming, and some people don't even pencil it down. That's one thing, but it's a good thing to start with the first one, pencil it down, and try and get into motion. And then when you start and you begin to see the finishing, you can now kickstart the
Yeah.
next one and all. And then, like Omar said, people, more people, even more people. And
True.
then User also talks about, only the wise can be advised. Yes, when
Mm.
these ideas are coming in, when these things are happening, it's good to seek counsel. It's good to ask questions. It's good to, especially people who are actually older than you, because of course
Yeah.
they've passed through some of the same experiences. The truth is that history has a way of repeating itself. So yes, it's someone that has actually experienced whatever you're experiencing. So it's good
Very
to
true.
get counsel from people who have had that experiences. So I think we can um, move on to our next speaker, right?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so we're still gonna be having Israel Aye. I would want to introduce him again, just like Chimede said at the beginning of the session. He's actually an energy lawyer, a legal service entrepreneur, a development enthusiast. Yes, if you sit with Uncle Israel, you would know that yes, he loves development. He talks about it. A serial entrepreneur. He is actually an interesting personality, if you ask me. And sitting under both Uncle Israel and Uncle Nat's teachings today is actually mind blowing for me. It's a reminder of a lot of things, And then I would also like to mention that Uncle Nat likes the Spirogera. That is the jazz he loves. Oh yes. Oh yes. He has the selection, and anytime I hear it anywhere, I just see his face. All right, so Israel, it's your time and it's your turn. Bless us with so much wisdom. Okay.
Okay. I hope it's not muted.
Um,
Right.
Okay.
all right.
Please go ahead, sir.
Sorry, a bit, but it is what it is. We'll make do with it. Okay, so I think I'm back on. So just to help us anchor the conversation, just can anyone
It's a bit of a crack.
information? Hello? Yeah, can it?
All right. Okay, I think it's a bit slow, but let's see how it goes.
Yes. Okay. It says I'm back for. I can see that. I'm just trying to see whether. All right. I'll just keep the sound gets better as we
Right.
proceed. Um. So we're dealing with risks and obstacles. We say I say move them and in your journey. Along the lines, my previous session on coaching, mentoring, mentorship, accountability partners, all of that. Now, remember the sort of party short or final words I left with you on that particular issue was that you should constitute your own team, carefully resource your team, because your success will have a lot to do. And I quite like the follow-on topic of internal systems, essentially, which perhaps is one of the things I alluded to earlier in my talk, that if you are not the right sort of person, even the best team will probably not help. There's a need that sort of your internal operating system, if you will, in order to be able to leverage the best resources that are available to you. We talked about earlier on about networks, or networking being a resource available to you. Particularly liked the emphasis that was put on people as really where value lies. And of course, the reminder that networking is not an opportunity for us to extract. It's a two-way traffic. We give as much as we receive. And that's what we do in networking. Now, in Israel with you, I would say perhaps in my coaching, in my corner, who are the people on my bench, or perhaps in my corner. And the first person in my corner is my spouse, my wife, my life partner, the one with whom I'm doing life. Because I'm a person of faith, I have very critically layers of prayer cover, and then mentors whom I have adopted to myself, both physical and remote. I just actually got an executive coach. We both for the management team and for myself, and so we're experimenting with that to see how it works in terms of impact, and then of course within this network, we're in the process of constituting a formal accountability board for one of my ventures. So it's work in progress for me. I'm definitely not there fully as I would like to, but already we're seeing early results, and I'll be happy to share that. Now, again, one way to look at life is to take the game approach, not the game theory. Game theory is a different concept, but basically to understand that life is very much, and maybe that's why I like the sports analogy. Okay, that life is in many ways like sports. One of the things I say to people that life is contact sport. So if you're someone like to be offended, to be upset, and to become grumbly because somebody tackled you or dealt with you roughly, then that's something you probably need to deal with. Okay, because life is a contact sport, and so there are going to be very many potentially abrasive interactions and contacts. Your ability to pick it up, get on with it, is probably going to influence to the degree that you win. I mean, in the soccer space, one of the really beloved players is Messi, and many of us think that Messi is loved for his skills, and probably so. He's very skillful, but he is also quite beloved for his temperament. Okay, he understands that the game is a contact sport, and that people are going to tackle you, and he just gets up and he goes. Now, if you extended that analogy a bit, then you'll understand, what I'm about to say, that even evil then no longer starts to look like evil. And make no mistake about it, there's evil in the world, okay? In some parts, we say "Awota," enemies. Say the enemy has done this, and yes, those are there. I'm not minimizing or diminishing the risk of pure evil. Okay, and perhaps some better qualified people will talk to us about how to manage that particular risk. But think about this. What if what we consider as enemies, opposition, or perhaps even evil are just opponents? I mean, can you think of any sporting event that's a really sad state to be in? Okay, that the game is actually made more interesting by the challenges, the hurdles, the obstacles, the risks that you encounter. And which is why those who are risk averse can probably would not really enjoy the thrills of life, not knowing what would have happened if you took the risk. So that's probably the place to begin with, because you can't talk about overcoming obstacles, managing risks, and the rest with people who envision a life without risks or obstacles. And basically, even some people just will go berserk and get a meltdown if, and there's something that the previous speaker, Mark Abrahams, talked about, and he said there are people, for example, that would, you just knock on one door and don't open it, and that's it, you've given up. I've said to many people, I said, look, what is genius? Genius is really work. Okay? I mean, if I suggested on this platform that was the gentleman that invented the light bulb now, Edison. Yes, Tommy Edison. If I was to suggest that Thomas Edison was a genius, I would imagine that everybody on the cast who would listen to it afterwards would agree. But what is the flagship evidence of his genius? The flagship evidence of his genius is the light bulb. Question: how many experiments did it take him to get to the light bulb? And if he didn't have resilience as a quality on the inside, he would have given up at the 10th experiment, 10th try. But I went on to almost 1,000, as we're told, and voila, it took that amount of attempts and trials to get us to the place that we got to, and today we have the light bulb and improvements on it even since then. So the point I'm making is we need to get to a place where we start to look at life generally as a game, as sports. And it will help us to enjoy opposition, enjoy obstacles, enjoy risks reasonably, without a doubt. I'm not talking about going out on the limb and putting everything at risk. No. That is sheer stupidity. But we're talking about just doing life, getting on with life, jumping into it, and understanding, and having the ability to say, bring it on. Just bring it on. So we started to say that you're not yet a failure. Next slide, please. Until you blame someone else. So remember that the first point I made is that we need to embrace challenges. We need to have the mindset that embraces challenges, that foresees it, envisages it. It actually makes, what is the goal if you were playing and there was the goal is you overcame obstacles, opponents, and you scored. That is the thrill. Therefore, if you're somebody who blames, or when you blame somebody else for your setbacks, adverse outcomes, and the likes of it, then we probably would be, we would describe you as irresponsible. And they said that one of the first rules of success is the definiteness of purpose. There's nothing as powerful as a mind made up. And that's what we see in sports. That once you get up, you go, your opponent beats you back, you don't give up. You re-strategize and you come again. Even if a particular game is over, you will come again. And you keep going at it. And that's really how it is. But there are people who may have given up and say, well, my parents didn't leave me an inheritance. Or I was born in Nigeria. And sometimes we say jokes about them, we laugh, but some of those jokes are really not funny to the extent that they disempower us. To the extent that you do not see yourself as the captain of your circumstances of your own life, then you are failing. If you then blame anybody, then you have failed up to that moment. So we say that you are not yet a failure until you blame somebody. For the real freedom of any individual can always be measured by the amount of responsibility which he or she must assume for his own welfare and security. And that's the place where you really say to yourself, if it is going to be done, it is up to me to do it. It's a very important point to note. So let's go through a few of those obstacles / risks I've noted here. I wish this was a bit more interactive because this list I would suggest to us is by no means exhaustive. Okay, and so what I've done is to list some really big ones and to suggest steps to overcome them, tactics, whether it's leg over, whatever it is, dribbling skills to go through life to either minimize the risk or to manage the obstacle, as it were, generally. And so the first one I'd like to start with here is perfectionism. Okay, especially in the innovative space. I mean, we've learned that if you have an idea that is 100% ready, it is too late. That's really one obstacle to achieving your goals. You've sat down, you've gone through the visioning, the missioning, whatever systems, you've gotten all the inspiration, you've set out the plan, you've done whatever else you need to do. It's time to hit the road. Listen to this. That every dream works when we work the dream. Authentic actions is how we live our dreams, not in our dreams. Okay? And this is what today is about. And everything you're going to be listening to today is really focusing on the integrity of action, how to take authentic action and the integrity of that sort of action and the potential results it can produce. And one of them is perfectionism. And really, quite frankly, perfectionism, again, is a manifestation or a symptom of just being risk averse. When people or an individual is risk averse, they don't want to make any allowance for failure. You have to give yourself permission to fail. Remember the Edison story I told, that it took 1,000 experiments to get to the light bulb. That is his street credibility. That is the evidence of his genius. There is that eureka complex myth that we have out there that, brilliance comes, somewhere when you're in theta space, somewhere between deep sleep and wakefulness, or Archimedes in the bathtub and water overflowing and he ran up out the streets shouting Eureka, Eureka. Listen to me. It doesn't quite happen that way. It's incremental. It's little by little by little by little by little. That's how it happens. So perfectionism is a myth. Don't go for perfectionism. Go for progress. Yes, there is such a thing as a minimum viable product or a minimum standard. You can set that what that is. But, somewhere in your mind, go with the Pareto principle, 80-20. These days, people tell you 50-50 as a matter of fact. Just start, shoot, then aim. Never, if you aim and shoot in life, the target will have moved before you shot. As they say, shoot your shot. So what we say that in life, those who achieve things they shoot and then they aim. Sounds very counterintuitive, but it's something to listen. Understand that there's such a thing as the education of the road. Okay, and perfectionism can become an enemy of progress. And if that was something that held you back before, today you know that it is an enemy. Start. I mean, Nath talked to us about initiative. That's a great word, but he also said initiative. There's the art of the start. Start and let me tell you, if you take authentic actions, like I would say, and that means something in my head, you know, in time, the universe, if I was to speak that way, would lift, will lift the resources to you. Events like this and people who are within this network will become available, ready the student, ready the teacher, as we say. And so we say perfectionism is one of them. Please, let me say this. Use the chat. I'm sure there is some avenue for you to post questions. I'd like to encourage us to please use the chat box. I would love to see those pop and see questions just show up, and we probably can gather them and see if we can get some sort of conversation going later on. But that's a good place to start. How about success or failure? Now we say neither success nor failure is final, and for some people it is. It's either they are resting on their oars or they are completely disempowered by the last setback they had. Now listen to this: it is not over until it is over. You're in the game until the final whistle, and do not let yourself to be disempowered. And that can be an obstacle and a huge risk in the journey, in your hero's journey, and your journey through life. And you've got to be very mindful of it. I guess the nugget that is suggested here to counter it is that neither success nor failure is final, and each of them are mere events. The important thing is how you relate to them. So, build on your successes, not rest on it, and then learn from your setbacks. Do not be completely disempowered by it and give up. Just sort of move on. Remember, we said that you're not here to failure until you blame somebody. You start to point the finger. All right. So, thank you very much. I see one comment. Please keep them coming so that we can engage at some point. So, impatience. That's an interesting one. There's a saying that the patient dog eats the fattest bone. But there's another funny saying around it that says, well, maybe the patient dog will not even eat any bone at all, and then we'll laugh and all of that. But, I remember something that is a statement that is attributed to Warren Buffett, which says that you cannot produce a baby in 1 month by impregnating 9 women. Listen, things take the time they take. It's just simple as that. There is a gestation period for things to happen. 9 months to produce a baby in normal times. Just about any number of weeks, or if you're going to from laying a chicken to hatching a chicken, I don't know how long it takes. I probably need to get a bit of my Greek science on, and the likes of it. But it's not 9 months, and it varies. The elephant incubates a baby for much longer. And so things take the time they take. And I'm not talking about just endless waiting and tedious waiting and the likes of it. But there are many times when we have ruined our chances. Take people, for example. If you were setting a network, okay? And that network in 5 years, in 10 years, probably can produce people that will be your friends and family, your pool of friends and family to raise capital to start that business idea. But, somebody said in 1 year you deleted 100, in another year you deleted 100. And we say these things, especially on social media, and it makes us feel, like lions or lionesses for a while, but we're essentially really like paper tigers. Because it's just either brinksmanship or just showmanship, and sometimes it's just people who are putting out vibes out there to just get a reaction. What if you cancel somebody who was going to be very valuable to your journey just because you were impatient? And which is why, in certain parlance, the number one attribute of love is patience. That's love is patient. And the Holy Books tell us that, and after that patience has had a perfect work, you will be entire, lacking nothing. I mean, think about it. No matter how hungry you are, if you put a bowl of rice on fire that should require 20 minutes to cook, and in 5 minutes you try to eat, what will it result in? Tummy ache, I imagine. So it is important to understand the time it takes for things to happen, and that is a huge risk. Taking big steps, giant steps, leaps, and we say, look, it's not a bad thing. I mean, I used to be a member of ISEC in my college days, and now students, International Association of Students in Economics, Business, Management, and Allied Studies. Let's call it a business club. And one of the things we used to say a lot when one of the mantras of that particular organization is think globally, act locally. And we say break it down to bite sizes. That's really how you take on big things. Sometimes we are intimidated by the size of our dreams, and we attempt to go for it. So some people are so perfectionists that they don't even get started at all. Now, some people like to provide themselves an alibi for failure and to say, well, you see, I tried. Look at evidence of it. And perhaps what you did was to just attempt to do so much at the same time. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. And we say break it down to bite sizes. Life teaches us a lesson that even the biggest bowl of eba is taken down in morsels. It is unlikely that you have a big bowl of amala or eba or anything it is, or tuwo shinkafa, whatever it is, and then you gulp it at once. It doesn't happen that way. You take it spoonfuls or morsels, you break it down. It's the same thing about the tasks and the dreams that we seek. If you want to build a house, just scout for land, buy land. You want to start a business, do a little bit of research, begin to constitute a team, look for partners, okay? And the likes of it. There are steps. You can break it down. What is the challenges? Think about the desired, then walk it back in steps, and think about in steps. The next one I want to go with us here is I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too, I'm disabled. I know the only disability is that of the mind. And then I make, I'm too short, I'm too tall, I'm too fat. Listen to me. Take a tool rack, a pack of screwdrivers. I do not know that there's any pack of screwdrivers that has only one size of screwdrivers. No, it only has one span size or type. Your circumstances are. I do not minimize it. I cannot even begin to imagine what that is like for you. But alibis for failure. When I think of the likes of Vucinic, no limbs, hands, legs, living his best life, married to a beautiful wife, has children, swings, golfs, with what? Helen Keller, blind, deaf, dumb, deaf, one of the renowned, writer, poets. How does she even take in data? How does she process it? And there are those kinds of people. I look to them for inspiration. There are people, I look at their story and I look at their lives and I say to myself, Israel, you have no alibi. No alibi. Whatever excuse you have is an alibi for failure. Think of our alibis for failure. You cannot show up and say, well, I did not. Did you not have limbs, speech, education, startup finance? What didn't you have? You have a spirit, you have a soul, you have a mind. And you have time. 24 hours is the currency of life, for the things we desire in life. And that's a big one. And if we had this, and again, I would have loved to hear people just sort of post what those excuses might be. And then we say procrastination. And the very simple rule of procrastination is do not leave till tomorrow what can be done today. And there are various tools and ways of managing yourself within time. And you probably would need to do a specific session of this, I don't say time management because you really can't manage time. You can manage yourself within time. Okay, and so there are your famous to-do list, your weekly planners, your monthly planners. That's what the LifeCompass is here to help you do. Manage yourself productively within time, live intentionally, set your goals, and allocate time for you to do it. Now, sometimes something that leads to that is if you're trying to do too much at the same time, it can lead to procrastination as well. And the way we've addressed that is to say, look, break it down into bite sizes. Decide, set for yourself realistic goals. We talk about SMART goals, but let me just stay with the R in the SMART, just realistic goals. Quite frankly, I don't care, whether you are setting very low goals. Set low goals. Decide that you're just going to read. If your goal is to read a book, decide that you're going to read 5 pages or 1 chapter. Start at something, but achieve it. If you set it, then don't leave it till tomorrow, because it only does that piles up. And one big one that is something of a dark horse in this space and creates a lot of problems for people is entitlement, as an obstacle. There are some people who have really stopped trying, have given up because, there are people who's fun. They have not really assisted. My brother don't like to help. My sister don't like to help. And this sort of person don't like to help. Listen to me. Nobody owes you anything. You have to take responsibility for yourself. There's nothing as powerful or more powerful as a mind made up. And the last 2 I have here will be distractions. And distraction is an interesting one. We all live in the age of distraction. Social media, games, and whatever else, our phones can constitute a huge distraction. One of the things I say is track your distraction, monitor it, schedule your distractions. Whether it's TV, whether it's gisting, schedule it. You can't control what you don't measure. And it's a bit like cheating. That's what distraction is. That's really a secret pleasure. That's a lot of people, and guess who? It's cheating, but who are you cheating? Yourself. And so if you really want to blow that myth away, shine some light in that space and create transparency, I say schedule it. Like somebody says, even if you want to be debauched, even if you want to spend money on the wrong things, budget it. Have a budget. Have a budget, for alcohol, have a budget for smoke, have a budget for concubines or side chicks. Also have a budget, those kinds of activities. And at the end of the day, let it not be off budget spend. Same thing for distractions. Let it not be an unscheduled activity. If you live on purpose, if you want to live intentionally, schedule your distractions. I'm not saying, look, you probably, unfortunately, not you don't speak my language, many of you don't. But I'll say it now in my language and I'll interpret it. It says, what it means is that we don't tell a thief to stop stealing. We just tell them to take it easy. Recently I was approached by somebody I know, who I know to be fairly dodgy and whatever else. And unfortunately, he's having issues with his wife, arising out of some unholy enterprise. Now, I would say, for example, that there ought to be honor among thieves. You know, I mean, if you choose that is the lifestyle you're going to pursue, then at least do it well, and not, and don't cheat. By the same token, I'll say that I won't say you don't avoid distractions. No. Schedule your distractions. Okay, put it on your to do. At this point, I'll take a certain break to do Instagram. You know, and at this point, I'll take this much break to watch Nollywood. By the time you schedule it, you will then see how much of your life is taken over by distractions, and over time, you start to do the calculation, the profits and the loss of those activities. And finally, on this list, I say inconsistency. You know, it's the big mo. You know, momentum, and many times great results are at the end of momentum. You know, the initiative kicks us off, the art of the start takes it. But in order to arrive at something, that's the concept of the critical mass, there is a threshold things get to before it starts to make traction. Okay, and to arrive at that place, there is a momentum, and it's a bit like the pendulum swinging back and forth. Okay, in that sort of sense. Now, I'll say that if you are inconsistent, you can never be excellent. And there's a very, very simple scripture. It says, "Oh, Reuben, my son, describe to me the excellency of our firstborn." He says, "But as unstable as the waters, you will not excel." So if you're not somebody who can stay with something, who does not have staying power to be consistent at something, you're flipping, flopping. Even the universe gets the message that when you say something, you cannot be trusted to follow through. And that's why sometimes when you say you want to enter a space and to play in a space, sometimes it takes anywhere, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 10 years, in order for that environment to resonate with you and say, okay, we get it. This is what we really want. And to start to cooperate. Now, how do you help yourself be more consistent? I say celebrate small wins. Okay? So break it down in bite size. Celebrate small wins. Reward yourself for those little things. Just tell yourself, if I read a chapter, I'll have a cup of chocolate. Those kinds of things. It will help you to stay the course. And don't try to do too much at the same time. And you should take breaks. Some people give up when they should be taking a rest. And there's nothing wrong with being tired. There's nothing wrong with taking a break. Take breaks. Timeouts are great. Call timeouts. I mean, even again, but back to my sports analogy. We have halftime. The basketball is in 4 quarters. Within the 4 quarters, there's a amount of timeouts. For shooting, have timeouts. Don't get burnt out. You can get to a place. That's a long time, and the rest helps you to regenerate this. Let me contribute.
Hello, Coach Israel.
That there is none of us that has been fitted with an eternal battery. None of us has been fitted with an eternal battery. None. Okay? None of us has been fitted with an eternal, everlasting battery. We need to recharge. And in order for us to be consistent, we need to understand our charge and recharge cycles, so that we know when to take breaks. You should at least get a day in a week to downtime, to recharge, and to go again. Closing thoughts. You don't get what you want in life or what you think you deserve. Instead, you get exactly what you work for, what you focus on, what you take action upon every single day. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, sir.
Having this, and I hope the sound was good enough for people to hear.
Thank you very much. Yeah, at some point it was cracking up, but we got the most of it. Can you hear me, sir? Okay, so I hope we enjoyed that session. I mean, those 9 points, those obstacles you highlighted.
Yeah.
Very real. Things we can relate with, broke it down into everyday and relatable examples. So thank you so much, Coach Israel. That was really a great session. Again, I'll say those who have questions, please just put the questions together, because after the final session now, we'll have some time to visit the questions. Yeah. Okay, Rosemary, you want to say something?
Yes, for me, what my takeaway from the obstacles were, I mean, of course, the 9 he shared, but for me, I think the procrastination part actually struck me because, I mean, there are times that, yes, you feel because, I mean, you can do this any other time. You now say, okay, you move it till, later or something. But really and truly, I mean, why shift something that you can actually do right now to save you the energy of maybe rushing to do a lot of things that actually would come with it? So for me, is, I mean, if there is a to-do list, act on it now. It's about now. And of course, what is the how? The how is do it now. Start now. And then
Yeah.
he mentioned something about being intentional about setting your goals, whether they are good, they are bad, they are ugly, what kind of goals you have. Please schedule them. That way, you are actually able to be accountable to the things that you actually do, whether they are good or bad. And then you'll be able to, like, now that we are reflecting on the things that we've done for the year, you'll be like, okay, fine, on this part I've been able to achieve this, on this part I've been able to achieve that, and this and that. So it was quite an insightful session for me. And then the entitlement mentality, yes, I really do not owe
That's a big
anybody
one.
anything. Yeah, I don't owe anybody anything. So I mean, but I should be responsible in as much as, yes, I don't owe anybody anything, but be responsible as much as possible and be intentional about it. Looking at life as a game for me was really, deep, because sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. So it's not something that it's all jolly, jolly, jolly. So, but what do you do when you actually lose? Do you get back on your feet? Taking from his analysis on sports, I mean, they fall down, they get up, and they continue. They don't just sit
Yeah.
there. They don't just lay down there. So it's, I mean, that's quite very, an eye opener for me.
Okay. For time's sake, I think we will just go to, yeah, I'm seeing that point on monitoring your distractions. That's so key. That is so
Yeah.
key. You can actually monitor it, you can be deliberate about it, you can schedule for
Mm-hmm.
it,
Mm-hmm.
so that you're in more control of your time. Well, we'll have to take the final session right away,
Mm-hmm.
because the time has gone
Yeah,
quite a
fast,
bit.
fast
So
spent. Yeah.
I can see he's already in the studio. Ladies and gentlemen, he
Mm-hmm.
was with us yesterday. Coach Colade Stephen was with us yesterday, and today again he's going to be taking us on the 10th step called Take Action and Go for It. Please, the floor is yours right now. I'd like us to make welcome Coach Colade Stephen.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, everybody. It's nice to be back here. Nice to see you again, Chimeze. Like I said, I
Thank
intend to
you.
grow beers before maybe before the end of next year. Rosemary, thank you. It's okay. Hopefully. I don't know what the idea is. Yesterday I was the first on the first step. Today I'm ending the step for today. And Idoko, we need to have a meeting after this session and discuss on the fine. You know. But just before you guys go, since I had to use it for the exercise yesterday,
Oh
so I'm going to
no!
ask
Don't
you.
make us shop today.
You're not going to shop. Don't worry. All you need is your mobile phone.
Okay.
I.
All right. Yeah. So what I want us to do, it's I know we've been sitting down probably at our offices, our home, everywhere, trying to do what we can do to get everyone engaged. So if you can take your mobile phones out, we're going to do what I call a selfie affirmation. Really, pretty much very simple.
Okay.
All right. All right. So what I
All
wanted to
right.
do is simple. So just do selfie. So if you want to do this, and then please be kind enough to share it with us on our platforms on Facebook. I'm going to share this, and then I want you to do that, and I want you to take the best selfie picture you can take, and snap. All right. So I think my snap actually made me okay. We're gonna try this one more time, and I'm gonna. Yeah, good. I like that. Good angle. Yeah. So what I want you to do with the pictures next it's just wherever you are, for all the listeners, both diaspora, abroad, and home, just take your time and go back to your gallery and just focus on that beautiful smile. Savor the beautiful look of the handsome gentleman and the beautiful lady on the screen. And look at that person and say, you are the best thing to happen to me. And I love you. Thank you. Or if you're expecting it, I wasn't planning that it was going to be more than that. It was just to get started from. you know, you know. So today I'll be speaking on take action and go for it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to share a story. Oh, well, but I have to allude to the fact that my mentors ahead had spoken, even though Rosemary had to do Uncle Nath, and I was deliberately trying as hard as possible not to do Rev, but to Alma, to Israel, Mr. Israel, to everyone who had spoken, thanks for setting the tone so far for Kickstart 2022. And today I'm going to just pick it up by adding my own bit to it, to the 10th part of it, to 10th pi, so that we are able to put things in perspective and say, okay, so much has been said from yesterday. Today, let's put a lot more action into the things that needs to do so that we can get a lot more results. In 2011, I was just fresh off a job where I'd worked in a consulting firm, a job that I really did like. And I was forced to leave because I couldn't play office politics. And some people felt I was a threat to them and their role and progress. So I left the job. And luckily for me, another company was willing to take me up in a bigger role, and they were paying me 3 times my salary at the time. I resumed as a general manager for the company. They were into events, which was also one of my forte because that was how I started out fresh out of university at the time. So I was excited. At the time, and I took on the job. Good pay, good promises, good perks. You're going to get this will come, that will come. I was really super excited. And lo and behold, I started the job. First month, all the perks didn't come. Yes, my salary was still 3 times more. The second month went, and at the middle of the second month, the job began to feel like a chore. And I suddenly wasn't happy with myself anymore. About the third month, I said, okay, I couldn't do this anymore. Why? I was in between something that was worse from where I came up from. At least in my former job, I had to report to one boss. In the new job, I had 2 different bosses who had 2 different agendas, who had 2 different expectations. And as general manager, I was answerable to 2 partners. And when I felt I did something to satisfy this person, the other person felt offended. When I felt I did the other person to satisfy the other person felt offended. So long and short, I took an objective look, and I found out I was just a pawn in between 2 power play. So I did the next best thing. I quit. I turned in my resignation and I quit. I got home, spoke to my fiance at the time, and she tried to encourage me, but I refused to be encouraged. It was very depressing because I was walking away from a lot of money. Then the next day we got talking, and then she looked at me and she said, you have always wanted to start your own company and do your own thing. And she said, in the last 3 months, you have been the most miserable person I've known from the person I've known for quite a while. She said, if you've wanted to start your business, now is the time to start. I looked into my savings, and what I had left from what I had spent was barely 50,000 naira. And then I said, okay, so how do I start? I really didn't know. So before the end of the day, I got a call from somebody I'd worked with in a popular telco at the time, who actually happened to be my friend. She called and said, oh, we're going to have a team building event. And I know we had spoken to your former boss, and she's charging us an arm and a leg, but we know that you can deliver the same thing for cheaper. You're like, okay, that sounds like fun. So lo and behold, they said, okay, so my former boss was going to do the job for about close to $1 million. So I said, okay, I'll do mine for, because I was fresh, of course, I didn't have any other thing to spend money on. So I said, okay, I'll do for 500,000. So I was excited. And I called that time, oh, I got a job, this is what I'm going to do, blah, 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 blah. I was excited. Then lo and behold, the days began to count down, and it was barely like a week to the job. I began to reach out to every other person that I knew or that I know, and I was trying to raise cash to execute the first contract I had. And lo and behold, everybody had a reason why they couldn't give me the money. But being the kind of person I am, I didn't hold anybody, I didn't take it personal. I just felt people had other responsibilities at the time I demanded for cash. So of course I was again back to my depressed state and okay, so what are we gonna do? How do I make it? And I was told, I said, have you tried to call these guys to find out whether they can give you an advance? And I said, no, you have to register with them. They have a process. You have to do this as a vendor. You have to do that, you know. I said, why don't you just ask? So I said, okay. So I picked up my phone and I called the person, this other person. I was the project head for the team building event. So and I called and I said, and I went to Egmont, which is like elder brother. Yeah, I need an advance for the job. And the next thing I heard on the other end of the line was this beautiful conversation. He said, okay, do you want cash or do you want check? Lo and behold, I jumped at it. Yes, I want cash. And then the next question was, okay, so how many percent do we have to pay up front? I said, pay me 90%. I said, no, Kaladi, we normally don't even pay up to that. He said, but because we know you and we know you're a small business, we would pay you 70%. So I ran down to the office, got cash, ran to the market to get the props I needed to work with. And then the next day I was supposed to do a ride to recce the venue and check out where the team building event was going to take place. While we were on the boat ride, one of the guys said, to another guy, said, oh, you guys having a team building event? I said, yeah. Oh, who's your fast? We don't have, oh, use this guy. It's really good. It's cool. So lo and behold, on that same boat, were other two clients that were there. I don't forget I got a job that was 500,000. I came back with another 1 million because I got two more jobs that was just going to happen concurrently after that. So, ladies and gentlemen, my opening remark is pretty much going to be very simple. And it's going to be a feedback from what I said yesterday, but it's going to start this way. Because when you say take action and go for it, it might look okay, let's go do it. But I'm going to approach it differently. And which is what I'm going to say. What makes you comfortable can ruin you. But what makes you uncomfortable is the only way to grow. And I say that again. What makes you comfortable can ruin you. But what makes you uncomfortable is the only way to grow. So I'm saying that to say that I gave every other excuse because I'd known how to do it a certain way. But the moment and the step and at the time I chose to approach what I needed to do, that was my goal at the time, the only thing that could help me apparently is the fact that I needed to learn the place of discomfort. And then this is something I'd read about and I'd shared that I think had been really, really advantageous to me in the person and as a person and in the business place. Something I learned from a guy called Bill Exim, and it talks about what I like to call what he calls the science of comfort and growth. And in the science of comfort and growth, he actually says there are four rings. I'm going to try and break them down and come also to share how I feel about the principle of emotion, how you think, what you do, and all of that. And then still picking up from what I spoke about yesterday, which is the concept of what you don't know is always more than what you know. So in his four rings of growth, he came up with four basic rings. The first one he says is the ring of stagnation. The second one is the ring of chaos. The third one is the ring of order, and the last of it is the ring of complexity. And I'll try and explain it a bit, and I'll try and dwell on the things that we need to do and how I think these things will pan out or how it will help us. So of course, it talks about the wheel of stagnation. So in the wheel of stagnation, it's apparently it's a low growth environment. And one of the things we do when we do the 8 steps of growth for a business is that we talk about I think one of the 8 C's of growth for a business and a team is that the fourth C talks about 2 words. One is climate, and the other one is a business climate, and of course the other, I think I've forgotten the name, but basically, of course, the business climate meaning the environment of the workplace you create, which is different from your business culture, which is the culture that determines how you do what, which is how you do what you do. So the climate of stagnation says this: it's an environment where you find yourself where things are stifling, where things are stifling, where there is no, it looks like it's repetitive and you have to keep on doing the same thing over and over and over. Then of course this now moves us to another ring, which Bill Exxon calls the ring of chaos. And when I was explaining the ring of chaos, he said this oftentimes are caused by two conditions. These conditions can be external, it can be internal. And chaos, of course, we'll talk about natural disaster, we'll talk about things that you didn't expect, that which is your literal spanner in your wheel, things that come to upset what you know. Then, of course, it now comes to the other ring that I love, which is the one that I call the ring of order. So in the ring of order, we're talking about the things that we are used to doing, which is human life, which is doing the same thing over and over and over and over, which is basically staying in the place of what we do. And if I was doing personality profiling and using the DISC tool, I would speak to a certain personality style that is called the steady style, which means that's a style that doesn't want change, just wants things to stay the way it is, right? So, which is where most of us find ourselves. We like things to be the way it is. And if we like things to be the way it is, then getting to a place of growth is difficult. But it also says one that I love is that we need to get to the ring of complexity. Complexity because we now go out of what we used to know. There's an upset, there's an unpredictability. There is something about it that we don't know. There is an assuredness that we cannot put our hands on. But it is in this thing that we are not sure of that we simply begin to learn to grow. And the earlier we begin to learn that these 4 rings are the determinant indices or modules or background or set grounds for us to grow, then the faster it is for us to accelerate growth. And yes, I'm still talking about taking action. So I'm still within the context of what I'm talking about, but I'm approaching it from the angle of discomfort. All right. Then it now goes on further to say that there are 3 primary ways that complexities triggers growth. And then I'll rush through them as fast as I can so that I'll come into, because I also want to dwell in a bit of emotions that Mr. Nath Makebram and I just spoke about earlier. I just want to just buffer that a bit and come to what action, because apparently almost everything I'm speaking about, I'm supposed to, I think I'd mentioned yesterday. So he said the number one trigger for complexity, one of the number 1 triggers for growth in complexity is that number 1, you are being forced into complexity or being forced into growth, or rather it is being forced upon you. So that means at the time when I lost my job, or when I was forced to quit, I did not expect it. So sometimes one of the ways you get to grow, oftentimes, is that we are forced upon it, and the only way growth can come at that point is oftentimes how we respond to it. And we're going into the new year, we're measuring with our life, with our business, with our relationship, with our parenting, with every sphere, with our health and everywhere. So that means one of the easiest action and get growth, because apparently action, like one of my friends used to say back in the day, he says one of the easiest way to know a living thing is that living things grow. So if living things are not growing, that means they're not living, they're dead. So one of the easiest way to make growth is that it can be forced upon you. And the second one, of course, is this: someone can help you get there. That's why we have parents, that's why we have mentors, and that's why primarily in this platform we have coaches. That's why LifeCompass is being put together. That's why we have the LifeCompass tool. That's why Kickstart is being put together, so that coaches, mentors, professionals in various spheres can come in and get you to action what you need to do. And one of the biggest things we do as coaches, oftentimes, like I keep on telling people who come, yo, this is happening, I need an advice. And I say, one of the tenets of one of the core background of coaching is not to tell you what to do, but to help you answer the hard questions and hold you accountable for the things you need to do. Like I said yesterday, it is about you, and you need to fix it by yourself. Then, of course, the last but not the least is that if people are triggering you to do things, it will still come down to what I said earlier, which is that you apparently need to trigger that growth yourself. You apparently need to trigger that growth yourself. So that means you need to take a place of responsibility where the things you need to do will determine the result that you get. So 2022 is coming. Do you need to move up your role from, say, um, maybe first level entry to mid manager? What are the actions that you are taking? You know, and there was something I wrote down when I was just thinking about this yesterday. This is a statement I make, but I sort of broadened it up when I was thinking about it. You know, I say that life is an action word, but the irony is that inaction itself is an action. So, which means that you're not choosing to do anything is actually a deliberate action. And just like I tell people when I'm probably talking about things that have to do even with distraction management, one of the things we teach in distraction management is that you can be doing the right thing. And even the fact that you're doing the right thing does not necessarily mean it's right. So you need to be able to decipher when is right and when is wrong. And also, I'm also going to go on further to say this. My observation over time also is that from talking to people, businesses, and people across board, across the spectrum of industry, I've come to realize that one of the easiest things that this generation loves, that we enjoy, is this word, strategy. We love the concept of ideation. We are pros at saying, let us strategize, let's come together, let's talk, let's talk, let's talk. And we love to put forth ideas. So I'll say, I like to put it this way, that we are idea harvesters. But the difference between your dream and your goal, or the bridge between your dream and your goal, or the transition from your dream to your goal, is action. That means, in other words, like I said yesterday, you must learn to begin before you start. And I love how Zolai put it earlier, Barrister Zolai put it earlier, which is the same thing. You don't necessarily have, just, you need to first shoot before you take aim. And that is basically one of the biggest concepts of this. The core questions you really need to ask is this, or rather are these questions. What are the things that are stifling you from growth? What are the things that you need to stop doing? What are the things you need to start doing? What are the things you need to action? What are the, and how soon do you really need to start them? So these are basically some of the centerpiece of some of the things that need to help you take action and go for it. I'm not talking about action in the angle of somebody who wants to motivate. I'm coming from the angle of discomfort versus comfort. What is making you uncomfortable? How much has that thing that you're comfortable, how much has it ruined you? I had a conversation with a friend I went to secondary school with yesterday, and she was telling me how she just looked back, about two of them, and then she told me how Colade had spent over 14 years post university, and the only thing I have to my name is my LLB or my B farm, and I've moved for another job and I want more. All right. She was telling me how she needed me to help. And I said, well, Bimbo, I'm not going to do it for free. You need to pay some money because this is my 9 to 5. This is my job. All right. So in closing, I'm going to say this. I'm going to say this because I apparently I noticed that my time is up. What makes you uncomfortable can ruin you. But what makes you comfortable can ruin you. But what makes you uncomfortable will give you room to grow. In the light of that, I think I am done so that we can move on to the rest of the session. Thank you very much for the time. God bless you. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Colade, for the session. I like the closing part where you said, what makes you comfortable can actually ruin you. I don't even want to think about the second aspect, right? Because most times, most of us like staying in our comfort zone. Why? Because we don't want to stress anybody, because we don't want to be stressed and all. But guess what? It just keeps you stagnant and it keeps you at the same
Level.
level. Yes. So, and then I also like the fact that we had the four rings, right?
Four
Sorry,
rings.
the four
Four
rings.
rings.
Yes. And that actually, you actually took them from the first cadre right up to the organized part, which actually, tells you that look, you could actually start from here, come down. At some part of your life, you actually go through that cadre of life. It looks like when we get older, we're actually more organized and we think through a lot of things more seriously, and we take our time to make decisions. So yeah, Chimeze.
We are less spontaneous. We are more deliberate
Very
at
true.
decision making, and but even in the best of it, it is that chaos that organizes us, because we
Right,
need
Mm.
we
right.
need that chaos to push us into the complexity. And if you look at people, like I said yesterday, who have really made growth, like don't forget the example I gave yesterday about the Wright brothers. It was the complexity. What do bicycle repairers have a relationship to aviation?
To
It
and
does
yes,
not
to be
make
right.
sense. But that complexity was able to push them to give us give us that result. And I like to also use the example of this popular Nigerian brand, of the Alabukun brand, uh, that stood for so long, and because they refused to get into the embrace complexity, the brand died. I know how many of us grew up with the brand, but because one other thing businesses begin to measure how they grow is how will they embrace, or they immediately take on each of these rings as they come across them.
Okay, so Chimeze, we're trying to say something.
Yes. Okay. Could you put that
Okay,
comment again
yeah.
on the screen? Yeah, that dreams don't work unless you take action. You know, and it is what it is. At best, it will just be a dream.
Right.
And I've heard this somewhere before, where people spend one half of their year of their life, the first half of their life, talking about the things they would love to
They
do,
want to do.
and then the other half talking about the reasons why they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you don't take action, it will just at best remain a dream, and it will never
Right.
see the light of day. So that's just what I
In
wanted to.
fact, so one thing I even advise most people who work with me to do New Year goals is that I most oftentimes advise that start what you want to do by the
Mm,
end of the year, so that
Yeah.
that energy that you have, you carry into
at
the
that
new year.
period.
Into
So
the new
don't
year.
wait till you get into the new year. Start now. And for most of our listeners, that's also an advice I will give. As you're getting into the
Yeah.
new year, we've gone through every single thing. Don't wait till January 1st, 2022. 29th, 29th December 2021 is the right time to start.
That's so true. That is
So we
so
can
true.
have
Thank
our
you.
questions and answers now.
Oh, yes. Please, if you had your questions written down, this is a good time to bring it on. While you're at it, please remember we have coaches within the Life Compass family who can be of very good assistance to you. We've spoken about the need for mentorship and coaches, so please take advantage of this. I would also want to remind you about the Life Planner book. Please, you want to get your own copy. It's heavily discounted, over 80% discount. So please get yours so that we can use it for the practical session tomorrow. Okay, so do we have any other questions?
Okay, so I have one. I think it's for Barrister Israel Aye. So my question is, at what point do you actually need a mentor or a coach? I know there are two different here, but at what point?
while we wait, do we want to take comments from? Do we want to take comments
Right.
from the page?
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
that would be
fine.
great.
Okay.
Okay, comments from the participants, comments, questions.
Adetutu, thanks for the feedback. Please go on, Chimeze.
Oh, okay. So thank you, Adetutu. You said it's been fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's get more feedback.
So if I'm going through the comments, okay, Udo Jackson, monitor your distractions, schedule it. Monitor your distractions, schedule it, wash hands. Thank you. That's safe.
It's
That's
safe.
very safe.
It's safe.
That's very safe.
Yeah.
Very
Sally's kitchen says learning, and then she also goes forward to say teamwork makes the dream work. Thank you very much, Sally's kitchen. Rotimi Babatunde. Thank God you at this point we'll probably have to bring you on somewhere. He says what I think the mentor gets is the greatest satisfaction of helping somebody along. Helping somebody take advantage of an opportunity that maybe he or she did not have. So that also speaks to one of the part that I think we also need to be mindful of. I'm sure most of us are familiar with the Johari window. The Johari window speaks to the four panes. The four panes speaks to the you that you see, the you that you see, but others don't. Okay, you probably want to respond to Adekwetan Oluwaseun Emmanuel. It's a beautiful thing to know that not all great decisions are made through logic or emotions. Great. Right. Thank you very much. Yes. But okay, I think that is good. But at the same time, Sean, so there's a principle I share, which is the principle of the E plus R equals O. So I believe that emotions determine a lot. Which means that your E plus R equals O means your emotions plus response equals your outcome. Nobody does anything outside their emotions, sir. And then if you must know that your daily dose of those means your dopamine, your oxytocin, your serotonin, and endorphin. Those are constant chemicals that you're throwing out. So whether you're in a business, in life, you're responding to things, you are through what your sadness, happiness, joy, guilt, shame, their emotions, anger, you are consistently throwing out. So logic works, but your emotions are the responses you give to those logic as they add up. So Sean, please note that, sir. Your emotions plus your response will always equal your outcome. So please note that. So thank you for that feedback. Rotimi, okay, we've read Rotimi. Then of course we have the family for. I'm not going to do that. That's Ojoro. Really, Doko, really, we're not going to do this. Then Rotimi also goes back to say systems and processes will always surpass motivation. True. Consistent, simple actions. Consistent, simple actions always give results. Permit me to allow my co-host Rosemary and Chimeze to also answer to this part of the conversation also.
Okay. Yeah. And then something from Coach Aye's session. He said, "Go for progress, not perfectionism."
Yeah. Go for progress and not perfection. Yeah. So I mean, just start and then keep moving, and then you can now begin to perfect. You can now begin to do your plus and minus, and and then it will actually come out perfect, really.
Yeah. I came up with one coinage some time back that you can only improve on what you have started. If you don't start, you can't improve.
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
get there.
That's very
You have to
true.
start
Mm-hmm.
first.
Very
That's
true.
You
very
know?
that's very true. That's very, very
Very,
true.
very true.
Yeah. And some of us who used to be bound by that perfectionism thing, you want to get it 100% first before you even start.
Before you
Everything has
even
to be in
start, yeah.
place, you have to do. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes just start, and then along the line, you make the adjustments, you get other things, but just start, and then before you know it, you're already counting small wins here and there. But if you just
Right.
keep waiting for all the conditions to be perfect, you will never start.
I
You
agree. I
know.
agree with you, Chimeze, but I would also even approach it a bit different. So I believe perfectionists, like procrastinators, they are the same thing.
Mm.
Hmm.
They are the same thing. Both
True.
of them find excuses not to do anything. So
Very
Mm.
true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
while the procrastinator will say it's until tomorrow, the perfectionist,
Yeah. We'll say it's
the
not yet
weather and
perfect. It's
everything.
not.
It's not ready.
Yeah,
It's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
it's not good enough. So that is how I see perfectionists.
Hmm.
So when I get stuck to perfectionism, I'm like, guy, you're giving an excuse.
It
You're
is
only
what it
justifying
is.
why and how not to do it.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
if we should
so
say the truth,
I guess we'll get Barrister Israel to answer the question that I asked, and then we could actually, broadcast it or something. So, okay,
okay,
there is another question to Mr.
for
Israel,
Mr.
which
Israel.
says, when selecting a mentor, should one select such from his workplace? What about workplace politics? Yeah, that's true. So, really, wow. And then how many
That
mentors can you have at the same time? You have mentor for career, for family, for oh, the questions are
Uh,
beginning to come up and align.
yeah.
okay, so do you want? Okay, so wait for Barrister Israel to respond.
I think he has
You,
Have we
it.
been
I
able
mean,
to reach
you
him
can
now?
speak to it.
I think he was trying to log in, and I think he had network issues or something. So, but well, I suggest that we could answer those questions tomorrow. Time is actually fast spent, and we'll meet. Yeah, Chimeze is opening his eyes. You didn't know. And then please do get your life compass year
Compass Year
planner.
Planner on the
And
link below.
yeah, the link
It's
is
on
there.
Facebook,
Yes,
and
it's
it's
on
also on
Facebook.
it's
So
also on Facebook. It's on YouTube. I can see the link on the YouTube for the Year Planner, so you can click it and download
okay, fantastic,
and take advantage of it
fantastic.
also, and
Okay, so
all social media platforms.
because we're going to be
Well,
practicalizing using this book tomorrow.
so and I think that to answer the question Udo Jackson asked, uh, there is no short number of mentors. And for example, I would say that I had a different mentor for different things. Career, business,
Yeah.
personal growth. I have a mentor for that. Okay, I'm allowed to call his name. That's Larry Lushola. All right. Yeah. So I go that deeply with him. Um, for business, for business, for business and growth, I have somebody I go to called Yemi Akinwuto. Spiritually, fatherhood, I will go to Inath Makebra Minajo. He's always been that model in that context. So yes, I think for different things, and then two things, like I said, um, don't a coach and a mentor are two different people, two different
Right,
and distinct people.
right,
That's
Your
right.
right.
coach, your mentor can take you on personally. They can give you feedback. They can do, but your coach would only keep on asking you questions. People say coaches are the most annoying people ever. Yes, we are annoying, right? That's why one thing you know a coach will never do, and I tell people this: one of the biggest Achilles heels of a coach is we cannot coach people who are close to us. Lo and behold, unfortunately for people who are coaches and their wives want them to coach, how do you want to coach your spouse? Really?
Yeah.
So the best thing I always advise and push them to somebody that is a coach that you trust. It's like you trying to coach your best friend. You can't coach your best friend. And I say that boldly. The metrics of imprint of growth that will need them, you will upset it because you will throw in your personal knowledge. That's what coaches are not allowed to do. You are coaches are, for me, they're more like the blind Greek god that carries the scale of good and evil, and all they can do is be objective. That's what we're allowed to do. But your mentors can be personal. They can be personal. So if you want somebody to tell you what to do, they can give you advice. So know what you want. I think the first thing is to say, know what you want. Do you need a mentor or do you need a coach?
A coach.
But if you want to do, and I dare say this, if you want to make exponential growth, I will advise you go for a mentor, for a coach, but have a mentor on the side. All right. You can still give your coaches, you can give your mentors an excuse. You can't give a coach an excuse. They might whoop you back into space. Okay, come on, get over here, and let's go on.
That's true.
So, that's very
true.
Thank you.
I've been able to help.
Thank you so much.
Wow.
All right. So it's actually been, it is. Tim, I didn't even know time had gone, So
I didn't.
That's interesting though. All right, guys. So we'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, and we will actually practicalize how we can use the LifeCompass year planner. Thank you for your time and thank you for your patience. And God bless you.
God bless you.
See you guys tomorrow, bright and early.
Yes.
Yep. So click, and download your year planner.
I'm still in the show. We are still live, though.
Are we still broadcasting?